into another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast right here on the CLNS Media Network. It is a Wednesday edition as we have a short week because Patriots are somehow going to be back on our television screens Thursday night tomorrow as they travel down to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in what we always call Hines Field, but I think it's Acrisure Stadium or something like that these days. But it is Brian Hines from Pat's Pulpit, joined by Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub to preview that game. So, Alex, I guess I'll start with a question to you. We don't officially know it's Bailey Zappe under center yet, but all signs point to him getting his second straight start.
Well, he kind of said yesterday it was going to be him.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting comment where he was asked about it. And he was like, yeah, they haven't announced it, but I'll let them announce that I'm starting.
He's like, coach has made it pretty clear, but he can announce it. So all signs look like it's Bailey Zappe under center again tomorrow night. Will they score any points on offense against Pittsburgh in this one?
I mean, do you know how rare it is for a team to get shut out 2 weeks in a row? Maybe the defense gives them a short field. This is a tougher defense than what they faced last week, and they got shut out last week. So I'm not overly optimistic about that. No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you. And we can get right into that Steelers defense. That's one of the things I'm most concerned about is the pressure, right? Bailey Zappe was sacked 5 times. Pressure rate was right around 35, 36%. And like that Chargers defensive line, it's kind of the Khalil Mack show. And he's a really good pass rusher. He leads the league in sacks, but this is a different beast with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward in the middle there. And I mean, Bill gushed about TJ Watt for, 5-6 minutes today in his press conference. So good test for Mike Onwenu on the outside after struggling with Khalil Mack. He's going to get a lot of TJ Watt or Alex Highsmith. How's Cole Strange going to do against a powerful Cam Hayward? And like, how's Bailey Zappe going to look? Because if he's under pressure again a lot this week, is he going to start? A lot of people praised him and he deserved praise for his work in the pocket. He's moving around, making rushers miss last week. But if he gets a second straight week of a lot of guys in his face and a lot of pressure, are we going to start to see some of those Mac Jones tendencies from him maybe, and he's going to start to get skittish and, fading away in the pocket when he throws and maybe lose some of that confidence in that eternal clock?
Yeah, I would not rule out him getting sped up. I think that's definitely a possibility, and it's why they need a pass protect better than they did last week. I think you look at, across the board, you pretty much most of the spots you got what you're going to get. I think Trent Brown probably can play better, but I think this is who he's going to be the rest of the way. You need a better performance from Mike Onwenu because he's supposed to be the linchpin of this whole thing, and he really struggled last week. And players have bad games; it happens. He's got to be better this week if the Patriots want to have a shot to actually really move the ball, not Bill Belichick qualifying move the ball, like really move the ball.
Not 250 yards of moving the ball, but Trent Brown is questionable with that ankle and a hand injury, which is kind of new. We could mention Riley Reif, who was on IR and back at practice the last 3 weeks. Today was his, window to be activated, and Bill said he's going to stay on IR, so he is done for the year. I think Bill said like 3 setbacks he had with that knee injury he suffered in that last preseason game. So Riley Reif is out of the equation now. So like, this is what you got. It's Trent Brown and Mike Onwenu. And did last week at all kind of flip your opinion on keeping Mike Onwenu at tackle for the long term here? Or maybe it was just 1 week against a good rusher. We'll see how he kind of bounces back against TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith this week.
Yeah, pretty much that one. Players have bad games. Like, it's definitely concerning, and I'll be watching him closer this game. But if he's solid the rest of the way, I'm not going to go back and be like, well, remember that Chargers game? He sucked. No, they need 2 tackles. Like, it happens. Let's see if he redeems himself.
Yep. So that's one of the big things. Obviously, that Steelers front is very good. So, how will they handle that? Is Zappe going to be running for his life all game to even have time to move the ball? But the other big thing I was looking for was Zappe was how is just the whole kind of timing and the chemistry going to look? Because there were a lot of missed opportunities where a lot of guys looked like they were on different pages last week. And how will that look? They only got one kind of walkthrough practice here this week, but how will it look in week number 2 as him, the full-time starter, handling all these reps throughout the week? Like, will you have more chemistry with Juju Smith-Schuster, and maybe you can get the ball to Tyquan Thornton more? And again, you have to block up front to even get those guys the ball, but that's another thing I'm going to be kind of looking for on some of those, quick hitting routes, those juke routes. Like, is that chemistry going to take us maybe a step forward in week 2 with Zappe, because they left some plays on the field? Because, like, David Andrews summed it up really good yesterday. He's like, all 11 got to be on the same page. All 11 got to be executing. Like, it's offensive football to the T, right? Like, Bailey Zappe could make a good read. He could make a good pass, but if he's getting hit while he throws that pass, it's not going to matter. And, the play is going to be a negative. So, like, how's this going to look week 2 with Zappe as the full guy? Like, is it going to be maybe a little smoother? Probably not, but maybe it will be a little smoother.
Well, look, it should, but at the same time, I would say that, again, they're facing more defensive pressure this week, and it's not just TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. It's Minkah Fitzpatrick, and I think some of those passes that Bailey Zappe threw last week that are maybe knocked away, Minkah Fitzpatrick picks off, especially some of those over middle of the field routes, some of those dig routes, things like that. So, yeah, it should look better. I don't know how much better it's going to look, but I think that for everybody talking about the rain was an issue last week, there's challenges in this one too, with it being a short week. Guys are not going to be the same physically as they would be for a Sunday game. You are going against a much, much, much better defense.
And you look at the receiver depth chart. I mean, the injury report literally came out right before we went on air. Kayshon Boutte, shoulder out. Demario Douglas, concussion out. He's your most dynamic guy. And then you have Devontae Parker, who's questionable with a knee injury, and Juju Smith-Schuster, who's questionable with an ankle injury. So you're down to like 4 guys, maybe. 2 of those guys are going to be limited. They're not explosive players anyway, and Devontae Parker and Juju, and now they have knee and ankle injuries. So you're back to kind of that same just group of Parker, Juju, Tyquan Thornton, and how much will they mix Jalen Reagor in there? So it might not be pretty, like, and that's really not a surprise with that group. So yeah, would you expect more of what you kind of saw from like Bill O'Brien from a game plan as last week? Like, still a lot of that simple stuff. And then I know Zappe said, they kind of adjusted in the second half to push the ball downfield more. And that's when you saw those jump balls to Parker become more prevalent, that, go route to Tyquan Thornton. Like, do you think they maybe be a little more aggressive, or are they scared of this pass rush and someone like Minkah Fitzpatrick roaming the middle of the field? Like, Steelers are playing a lot of man coverage this year. So, like, what are you thinking from Billy O here for his kind of game plan?
So last week they were very conservative, and look, they were conservative the whole game, but like they were more conservative in the first half, and then in the second half they kind of opened it up a little bit and threw the ball a bit more down the field. Maybe like some of that might have been Zappe too. I think there were some chances to throw the ball in the first half that he didn't, and maybe the adjustment wasn't necessarily changing the play calling, but just saying to him at halftime, hey, push the ball, go ahead, go for it. I almost wonder if they do the reverse this week, where it's, because, I mean, look, the throw to Tyquan Thornton almost hit. I thought the throw to Thornton might have been an overthrow, but like realistically should be caught, even if it is an overthrow. The throw to Parker, he put where he needed to. Parker just couldn't keep himself in bounds. So he made a couple of decent throws there. I almost wonder if they go the reverse and say, all right, let's come out and try to open it up. And if it doesn't work, if we're getting beat up or the ball gets picked off, yeah, we'll kind of go back into the shell. But I would almost try. So here's where I'm conflicted on it. 2-10 team. You got nothing to lose. You're trying to figure out what this guy has you. Yeah, go out there and sling it. And then if it doesn't work, you go in the shell so the kid doesn't get his brains beat in. Fine. Fair. That isn't really the way how they've approached things. Like, yeah. Oh, we're 2-10. Let's try this. They haven't been that team. So maybe maybe they're afraid of the defense and they just go super conservative the whole game. I could totally see that too. But I would almost rather come out aggressive and then pull back as opposed to coming out super conservative and then ramping up as the game goes on, because maybe you fall behind and now they're playing the pass more. Maybe now they have a better read on what you're doing or something like that. Whereas I would come out, give them the best shot first, and then go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of playing it like maybe a 9-4 team that's, their starter gets hurt and they have their backup in for like a game or two, and they're just trying to survive a game or two, right? And being like, maybe if you can go 1-1 and then we get our starter back and we're going to keep it conservative and rely on our defense. But like, as you said, they're 2-10. Like, what do you have to lose to go out there and just let Bailey Zappe try to sling it around? maybe try to cook something up, even let Zappe cook. But yeah, it's been kind of a weird, like really conservative game plan, and it's been like that for a while, really, since I forget, was it the Saints game when Bill said, we're starting over after the blowout in the Saints game?
Was that the Saints game or the Cowboys game? They said there were a few weeks they
It was,
spent doing that.
it was, I think it was definitely a home game. So I think it was the
Oh, then
Saints.
maybe it was the Saints
Yeah, I
game.
think
Yeah.
it was after the back-to-back blowouts, and he's like, "Oh, we got to start over." And since then, they've really been like the screens have ticked up the last few weeks, but it's really been simple concepts throughout. So, but maybe they'll come out slinging. Right? Remember last year, Mac Jones hit the big explosive downfield to Nelson Aguilar in this matchup against the Steelers. So
Right.
we know Zappe will give. He loves giving Devontae Parker his chances downfield for those 50-50 balls. He gave Tyquan a chance, so maybe they'll do some of that still. Because it's also worth noting Ramondre Stevenson, as expected, is out with that ankle injury, probably done for the year. It's a high ankle
Should be
sprain.
done for the year.
So yeah, that's like typically 3 or 4 weeks, and with 5 games left, there's no need to rush Ramondre back here at this point of the season. So obviously a big load for Zeke you're expecting, but are we finally going to see maybe some Ty Montgomery or like Jermichael Hasty as a pass catching back here? Are you expecting Kevin Harris off the practice squad? Like what's your plan behind Zeke there?
Well, so I always forget how the practice squad works for Thursday games and when they have
Yeah,
to announce. I think it's technically by 4 o'clock today. Now, sometimes they get reported later, but I I wouldn't be surprised if they elevate Kevin Harris, but I think you're going to see a lot of Zeke, maybe a little bit of Ty Montgomery, but I think this could be a game where Zeke plays 75-80% of the snaps, kind of like what Ramondre Stevenson was doing late last year. Because if they're going to play Ty Montgomery, or sorry, similar to what, did I say that right? What Stevenson was doing last year. If they were going to play Ty Montgomery running back, they would have done it. If they, maybe Jermichael Hasty a little bit, but again, I just think they don't trust those guys, and it's going to be a lot of Zeke.
yeah. I think it was Montgomery. What, did he get one handoff or two? Like when Zeke just needed a breather last week, but maybe they trust him a little more with a whole week to plan. But again, they haven't played this guy at running back all year until like break glass in case of emergency last week. So that'll be interesting to see.
The other thing, I think they can still technically make roster moves tomorrow. I
think it is tomorrow. I looked it up earlier, but I couldn't find like a stead rule for like the Thursday. But I think they have till tomorrow maybe to announce them.
I think instead of a practice squad elevation, I think they can make like a roster move tomorrow.
Oh, really? Like sign someone?
Right. So they could place Ramondre on IR and sign Kevin, or place somebody on IR, whoever. I would guess Ramondre, and sign Kevin Harris. I think that they can still do until tomorrow.
That would be, you wouldn't expect them to like sign an outside running back. It would be Kevin Harris.
No, it'd be Kevin Harris. Yeah, it'd be Kevin Harris.
Yeah, at this point. But yeah.
Unless the only other guy, actually, JJ Taylor is on Houston's practice squad. So they could sign him, but even still, that would be a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the only one that has experience in the system, because Patrick Taylor left back to Green Bay. He's on the active roster, so they can't sign him. And yeah, it was really only JJ Taylor. So I'd expect a big role for Zeke. Third down will be kind of interesting, though, because he struggled in pass pro last week. Obviously, the fourth down sack to Derwin James was mostly on Zeke. He got ran over a few other times. So maybe the door may be open for a Ty Montgomery or a Jermichael Hasty to finally maybe get some pass catching snaps there on third down.
Right.
But anything else offensively you're kind of eyeing? Maybe more tight end usage? Like Gesicki was real down last week as they went to those three receivers. You looking at any of that or anywhere else?
I don't think we'll see a ton of Mike Gesicki, because again, it's one of those things where if he was going to play a bigger role, he would have played a bigger role last week. I think it's going to be a lot of Devontae Parker. Zappe seems to like throwing to him. I think he's the guy that is going to be involved.
Yep, I agree. So might be the same path as last week, unless they can, maybe it looks a little cleaner, more, timing, the chemistry is better with another Zappe start, but that pressure is really going to be the big test up front, because, you can't have him running for his life back there, because then the plays just have no chance against a really good front. So That's it for the offensive side of the ball. We could quickly hear from our friends at FanDuel, and then we can talk about some of that Steelers offense and the Patriots defense.
There we go.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action, NFL. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including you got spreads, you get your player props, you got over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right, so I mean, I guess the Steelers have looked a little better since firing Matt Canada a few weeks ago, their offensive coordinator. But now Kenny Pickett got hurt, their starting quarterback last week, ankle injury. He's out, so it will be Mitch Trubisky under center, who the Patriots saw last year in that week 2 game. They won 17-14. And I went back and looked at that and, see how they kind of handled him a little bit. And they only blitzed him 6 times. Like, I thought it was kind of a game plan you just saw against the Chargers where, keep him in the pocket. You're not really rushing him because he's a mobile guy. He can move around a little bit, but, we're going to make him try to make the right decision and beat you in coverage. And that's where Mitch Trubisky has kind of struggled, honestly, throughout his career. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see maybe a similar game plan where, you're dropping 7 or 8 guys in coverage most of the day and seeing if you can just, get some pressure on them, but keep them in the pocket while you're doing so.
Yeah, and Devon Gottschalk talked about that this week, that if you let him beat you with his legs, he'll beat you with his legs, and that's not what they want. And when they won the game last year, and again, Trubisky started last year, Pickett wasn't starting yet. Trubisky started, Pickett wasn't starting. Trubisky only carried the ball once for 7 yards. So they did a very good job last year of containing Mitchell Trubisky and not letting him take advantage of things with his legs. It's something they've done a good job of this year as a whole. They did it against Josh Allen. They did it against Justin Herbert. Obviously, those are much, much, much better quarterbacks. So they should be able to do it. And if you can do that and you make Mitch Trubisky throw, and by the way, the Steelers will be without Najee Harris. So even if you're somebody who thinks Jaylen Warren's better, Warren's not going to get 100% of the carries. They're hurting somewhere, somehow. And you make them throw the ball more. Like last year, Trubisky threw the ball 33 times in that game. And if Mitchell Trubisky's throwing the ball 33 times,
you don't want that
as a defense. Right. Well, you do want it as a defense.
The Patriots want that. Yeah. The Steelers do not want that.
That's where that all starts. Go out. You can, and last year they played a lot of coverage. They just get to him. But I just think, go after him, but with discipline. Don't let him escape the pocket and force him to make the throws.
Yep. So you got to stop the run in order to do that, which Patriots have been very good at that. The best run defense in the league. A lot of statistics say, you mentioned Devon Gottschalk has been a big part of that. Christian Barmore, he's questionable, but looks like he should be good to go. But like Jaylen Warren's a real explosive back. And you mentioned like kind of a change of pace with Najee, but like Jaylen Warren over the last month and a half, maybe even 2 months has been like the most missed tackles forced in the league, the most yards after contact. So he's an issue for a lot of defenses, and will be a good test for this Patriots run defense that again has been very solid. So we'll see how they match up. But it's like you got to tackle him, right? And we've seen some inconsistency with tackling. It's been better lately, but that's a guy you got to get on the ground and stop him, and then make Mitch Trubisky throw the football.
Right. And they've been good against the run. They were obviously very good against the run last week. It's something they've done the last few weeks. They've been good against the run. So you'd think that will continue.
Yep. But do you think the Steelers' kind of offensive talent, weapons could be the difference in this one? Because they do have, George Pickens. Get ready for a night full of George Pickens.
Yeah, if George Pickens goes off, if this is one of like his 3 good games of the year, and yeah, I'm not he's better than Tyquan. I'm not saying that they got that pick right, but like you look at George Pickens, he either goes for like 10 catches for 140 yards or he does nothing. So maybe this is one of his big games. But yeah, certainly. Here's the thing. Both teams are dealing with deficiencies at quarterback. One team has players that can elevate that quarterback, skill position players that can elevate that quarterback. The other team doesn't. So I absolutely think that's possible.
Yep. Because it's, Pickens, hit or miss, but good player when he's on. And then Deontay Johnson is a really good wide receiver. And Pat Fryermuth has been pretty active,
Yeah.
especially since they made that offensive coordinator switch. So he'll be a good test for Duggar, Peppers, whoever's kind of in that
Well,
tight
Mills had a
end.
really good game last week on the tight ends.
True. He could definitely be involved. So that'll be a good test for that safety group. But yeah, if you look at these two teams side by side, like statistically, offensively, they're kind of the same, but like the talent definitely, leans to the Steelers side. So if they could be the group that could elevate a Mitch Trubisky and kind of maybe steal this game.
Right.
Yep. But I mean, what do you think? Patriots, they need a turnover, they multiple turnovers, they need a score in order on defense to maybe win this game or keep them in this game.
Yeah, they have to. Bill said it last week. We talked about this on the show on Monday. Bill blamed the defense for not creating turnovers, not giving the offense short fields, none of that, or special teams. You can throw special teams in there too. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying that is what this offense needs. I'm saying to assign the blame there is bizarre. At least to do that publicly. But yeah, they can't. This team can't win a game without forcing turnovers. They just can't.
Yep.
They're not built for that. They're built for the defense needs to force multiple turnovers. They need to win the special teams margin. Last year, this game came down to special teams play. Do you remember that? Gunnar Olszewski.
Yeah.
Or yeah, it was the one. Wasn't that the one where Brendan Schooler gave the ball to Bill?
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to the margins and who can create not on offense. And it's something the Patriots weren't able to do last week. Special teams wise, they've been bad all year. But I do think that absolutely matters in this game.
Yeah. They need a short field. There were times even Sunday where they had a few like long drives and you're like, wow, I feel like they're really marching the field here. And then you like double check and they're at the 50-yard line still. Like they're at midfield. Like
they had long fields, yes, but you're going to need to overcome long fields in the modern NFL. That's just what you need to do. And I put on top of that, part of the reason they kept having long fields was even though they weren't scoring, the offense just couldn't. But I know they were moving the ball, but like they weren't. How many times did the Chargers punt from, between the 30 and midfield? And you're able to pin the Patriots in that way. And J.K. Scott also had a very good game. He had a great game flipping the field. Bryce Baringer didn't. And that is on the special teams.
Special teams player of the week, J.K. Scott. He got it.
Did he? Well-deserved. Roll Tide. Yep. It's more than it's the offense contributes to field position too. That's just it. They do.
Yeah. Yeah. They shouldn't need a short field every game to get a point on the board, but that's kind of where they're at, where they're going to need one or two short fields to maybe try to keep this game competitive. But elsewhere defensively, Sean Wade is out with that illness that's going around. JC bounced back last week. He had a good game, so maybe he could, kind of build off that. John Jones too. Dietrich Wise, who missed last game with that illness that seems to be going around, is back in the lineup this week. So just some other notes there defensively. Any last things you had there? Thoughts on Patriots side or Trubisky or anything?
That's pretty much it. It's a tough game to break down. It's just screws up less.
And I mean, we can just take that to special teams. Like that's, again, it's going to be a big part of this field position, Behringer, all that. But I'm kind of at the point where I wouldn't be surprised if Matthew Wright is kicking for this team tomorrow night, because we walked up to practice yesterday, and one of the first things I noticed, I think you posted a video of it too, was Matt Wright was, kicking field goals while Joe Cardona was snapping and Bryce Behringer was holding. He was the kicker, and Chad Ryland was just kind of back behind the field goal post catching them. So maybe that was just the time we walked in at practice or not, but I thought that was notable. And then I don't know if you noticed today, but Bill was asked about, someone asked him, like, the Steelers and the Patriots offense statistically are kind of similar, but there's a big, obviously, difference in the record. What kind of is the reason for that? And he went on this kind of long answer where he said turnovers are key, and just one or two teams makes a big play, down the stretch, and it can help swing the record. But he also specifically, and I have the quote, he mentioned Chris Boswell, the kicker. He said Boswell's one of the best kickers in the game. That's a weapon for them. In those close games, it's important to have that player perform on the game-winning plays. So I don't know if you want to take that as maybe some shade to Chad Ryland, but like between that and Matt Wright kicking and them, going for it on that fourth down late in that Chargers game, like maybe there's not much faith left here in Chad Ryland,
I
and
don't think so. I think
maybe,
Matthew Wright's going to be the kicker.
and maybe they
tomorrow.
don't want to cut him as a fourth round pick yet, but
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's Matthew Wright.
Would not surprise me at all. And maybe it's, I don't think it means he's done. Maybe it's one of those things where they give him the rest of the season or just a couple weeks off to reset mentally and then he comes back. But yeah, I would not be surprised if he's not, if Ryland's not the kicker this week.
Yeah. Do you think that would, like you say, give him a break mentally, but don't you think it could work against them where you're benching this guy and like
It
that
could, but what's happening right now isn't working.
Yeah, but I don't know. I would almost rather just see if he can go out there and kick his way out of the slump. And I mean, maybe he might not even get a chance to kick the way the offense is going like last week, but I'd rather see him out there. Again, he's a fourth round pick. See if he can work out of his struggles, and then you're going into the offseason with more confidence in him. Or if not, like you're 2-10, like he's not costing you valuable games and playoff seeding down the stretch here. I'd rather see him kind of work that out. But yeah, I'm kind of at the point now where I'm expecting Matt Wright to be the kicker here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
You sound thrilled about that.
I'm so pumped. You're right. But yeah, any other last thoughts on special teams there or anything in general you got?
No, it's pretty much it for me.
I mean, that's kind of the game, but we still have some more stuff to talk about. But before we could do that, we can hear from our other friends over at SeatGeek.
All right. If it loads, there we go.
I've been looking for the best deal on Celtics tickets, and with over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports festivals, and more. With the NFL, NBA, and NHL seasons in full swing, you don't want to miss out. SeatGeek has your tickets to every game. Plus, artists like Travis Scott are on tour. They put all the tickets across the web in one place to make sure you're getting a good deal. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so look for the green dots. Green means good and red means bad. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. So as you know, I always come through for you guys. You can use my code DREAMERSPRO for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code DREAMERSPRO. Make sure you check the link in the description to download the app.
All right, well, there might not be a better game to use SeatGeek on this weekend than Army-Navy coming to Gillette Stadium. Alex, I know you were very excited for it. You've been to the game, last year. You'll be at the game this year. What do you got? Army-Navy, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's a football environment unlike any other. And look, the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. That's still obviously, the best. But I've been to big college football games as well. I went to Alabama, Florida State, and in Atlanta a few years ago. And I think this is true across all sports. A lot of these big games now, you get that wine and cheese pink hat crowd. It gets up to like $1,000 a ticket. And it's not saying Army-Navy isn't expensive, but it's more of a demand thing. And in that, I mean, like, there's a lot of tickets that just are never available to the general public because so many of them are given to the academies to sell. And they also, you have the entire student body of both schools come. So that's, 10,000, 12,000 seats right there that are off the board. It's a big game, and it means everything to not just the teams, but the fans. But it's not that it's a crowd it's a football crowd. It is a crowd that is truly passionate, knows what's going on, understands the game. And it's also the way the game is played. It hinges on every play. It's a game of anticipation because there may not be they'll run the ball and go back and forth and punt back and forth, but it's building to something. And you look at the game last year, and obviously that was just such an unbelievable game, and it usually does end pretty close.
Last year was the overtime game, right?
Last year's first ever overtime game. They're going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, boom, Army blocks a punt. and for a touchdown. And the guy made a great play to recover the ball. And then, they come back the other way and Navy breaks off this like 60-yard run. And then, you go to overtime and you have the first pass completion of the game is the first play of overtime for the touchdown. You have the fumble right before. Like, it's the big plays just are so the energy in the building is so unbelievable. When you get that big play, the way the building erupts, it's just really special. There's obviously the pomp and circumstance of it all too, which is fantastic. I would encourage everybody there, check out SeatGeek, check out, get tickets. If you can't and you still want to be involved, go down to Gillette in one of the bars there, go into Boston and Providence. There'll be viewing parties, go into Boston earlier in the day. They have events, the Patriot games where students from both schools compete in all these different events. I think even like the debate team's doing something. Just go be around it and experience the energy of it. It's unbelievable. It's unlike everything else. And this is a line that, I remember getting told this when I grew. It was one of the first college football games I watched because I didn't grow up, like we weren't big college football fans. My dad isn't, but they are now, or my brother is, but we would always watch Army Navy. And I remember my dad would always say the thing, and this isn't, you hear Jeff Monken said this at the press conference last week. It's the only game where everybody on the field, everybody playing is willing to die for everybody watching. And it sounds cheesy, but there's real power in that. You feel that when you're watching the game. It is played with that kind of passion, that kind of intensity, that kind of meaning. You don't get games anymore in any sport at any level that are as pure as what Army Navy is. Army Navy really is like what the foundations of football, the sport, are all about. So I would encourage you to get involved with it as much as you can and try to find a way to enjoy it. If you can go to the game, amazing. If you can't, just be down there at Gillette. Look, you'll still see the flyover. You'll still see the paratroopers and all that. You'll hear it. If you are going to the game, go for March On. It's very cool to see. That starts at about 12 o'clock. Game day will be here. My guy, Kirk Herbstreit, will be here. I'm going to try to meet him. That's my goal for the day.
Ben, too. You got to meet Ben.
And of course. Yeah, I want to meet Ben. Kirk, whatever. I want to meet Ben. But no, it really is. Everybody I've talked to outside of Evan Lazar, who hates fun, everybody I've talked to about this game it says use the term bucket list. It's a bucket list sporting event. It's not like, for me, my bucket list sporting events, besides all the individual college football games I want to go to, right? Like the Iron Bowl, whatever, like Army Navy, I checked off last year. That was right up there for me with the Masters and Daytona. And I've already checked off the Super Bowl, but that level of event, it lives up to it. It feels like a championship game. And yes, the college football world moves on and neither of the teams will play in a bowl game, but at the experience of the game itself, you feel like you're at a championship game and it feels like a championship game. And there are those kinds of emotions and that kind of intensity. And it's a special day.
Yep. It seems like an awesome atmosphere, and especially, game day will be there. So it'll be a big thing all day, except if you're Evan, I guess. He probably doesn't like them running the ball 60 times.
No, he's like, it's bad football. I'm like, it's so competitive. It's such a competitive. I'd rather watch that than, watch Georgia boat race TCU 63-10 or whatever it was. No, it's good football for what it is. Like, it's not groundbreaking stuff. It's not new age, although they do run. It's neither school runs the traditional triple option anymore. It's a modified spread triple option. There's much more shotgun concepts involved. So it's not quite as archaic as it used to be, but it's physical. If you like physical smash mouth football, close games, it is that. It is that. So yeah, it's there. You can enjoy it if you're not, if you go in wanting to enjoy it, I promise you will enjoy it. If you're somebody who goes in and says, this is bad football, I'm going to hate it. Well, what am I going to do? You've made up your mind. You sound like a miserable person. If you go in with an open mind and you say, I'm going to enjoy this for what it is, a high level athletic competition, you'll probably enjoy it. You probably will.
Yep. It's old school, run the damn ball, but it's going to be competitive and it's going to be an awesome atmosphere.
But again, when they do hit that pass,
Yeah, it's
because they
electric.
will hit a couple when they hit that first pass. Because the guy's usually open. Like when they hit a pass,
No one's expecting it.
It's not, but it's not even that. They don't hit like a 5-yard slant. The guy gets tackled. When they hit a pass, it's 65 yards to the house. So when they hit that, that building, like last year, went nuts. There's like a 70-something yard touchdown pass late in the game in the second half, and it got called back. But before anybody saw the flag, that building was as electric as I've seen any building in any sport. It was unbelievable. And the one thing I'm rooting for, I have a cousin whose husband is in the Navy, so that's where my rooting interest is. But really, I'm rooting for a close game, because if you get a close game, you're going to get it. It's going to be a good day. It'll be a good day anyway, but close game is really how it'll be a great day. So that's what I'm rooting for.
Yep. And I believe it's the only college game, right?
It's the only, Saturday? I think the FCS playoffs are going on, but it's the only like FBS game. Yeah.
Yep. So no reason not to watch it or go and experience game day and everything. No real draft prospects this year, right? Like I know last year,
not
Army
this year,
had that edge guy.
Yeah, Andre Carter.
Yeah.
No real draft prospects this year. If you want a player to watch, I'll give you a player to watch. I got to pull this up here, but last year's game, if you're familiar with last year's game, and if you're not, go watch the ending. If you want to get psyched up for this game, go watch the ending of last year. Navy has, I forget if he's technically a running back or if he's a fullback or what his official position is, but Anton Hall is in the backfield for Navy. He's a slot back, technically. That's his position. He is a slot back. He is a junior from Florida City, Florida. And he had a pretty good game last year, but he was the one who fumbled the ball on the goal line at the end of the game. And if you go back and watch, he was distraught. And then the next day, Ken Niumatalolo, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I don't think I am, but the head coach from Navy who'd been there for, I think, 15, 16 years got fired. And there's this piece that came out that Hall kind of put that on himself, and, them losing the game, the coach getting fired, all of that. It really, you felt for the kid. You did, because he played a really good game up to that point. I want to see him just go off. I want to see him have a huge game, because it would be such a cool story for him to come out and have a big game like this in this game. So that's my player to watch. Anton Hall from Navy is the one guy I'll be looking at, not from a draft point of view, which is I hope he gets a bounce back, because I did really feel for him last year, and I know I'm not alone in that.
Yep, that'd be a cool story. So should be an awesome game. You can't complain about the football, especially if you've been watching 12 games of the New England Patriots this season, and especially if you're going to watch the Patriots Steelers on Thursday night, which, if you're falling asleep near the end, you might just mix up Pittsburgh for Iowa at this point. So
it is the lowest total in the NFL since 1993.
Yeah. Is it
29 and a half?
That's down to 29 and a half.
Well, it might be back up to 30. McAfee had it at 29 and a half at some point.
Let me pull it up on FanDuel very quickly. Yeah, it was the lowest. If it was 30 or lower, it was, FanDuel's 30 and a half. So I believe that's still the lowest since 98 or 2000, somewhere in that range. So should be a barn burner, but Alex and I will be back to break that one down and talk all other Patriots talk, of course. I believe we will still be regularly scheduled on Monday, but make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow Patriots CLNS on Twitter so you do know when we go live. But until then, you can follow Alex on Twitter at Real Alex Barth. Go read his work, Patriots, and he'll have a bunch of Army Navy stuff up there too, I'm sure, at 985thesportshub.com. You can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines. Go read my Patriots stuff over at patspulpit.com. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.